Room rates seem to be at an all-time high. With a looming recession, is there a recommended way to protect our clients to ensure they pay fair market rates when their events occur?
So I'm going to jump in because Barbara knows that this is my biggest contracting pet peeve. A hotel contract is a futures agreement. You are agreeing now to buy inventory at a date in the future on agreed terms and conditions. You are not entitled to change those terms and conditions based on what is going on at the time that the event is happening. So it's just like buying pork bellies or stock options. You're taking a risk and you hope that you're taking a good risk and that it turns out to be good for you. But if it doesn't, that's called the romance of business. So customers are always coming in and wanting these clauses that say, we're agreeing today that we're going to pay $200, but if there's a lower available rate, you will lower that available rate. And that is just not fair or appropriate. What I always tell people when they ask for that clause is, okay, if you want to get the lowest available rate, if our prevailing rates are higher, will you agree to pay higher rates? And in all the years I've been doing this, I've never had a group agree to it. So if it's not fair to have to pay higher rates, why is it fair to get lower rates? Those lower rated rooms, in the event that it happens and the market shifts, because right now transient rates are usually higher, but if there are lower rated rooms, they aren't getting free meeting space, they're not getting concessions, they're not getting 1 per 50 comps. So an individual transient room has nothing to do with your group convention contract. That contract is negotiated based on the entire revenue package and the commitment that you're making, and there's no legal obligation for the hotel to adjust that rate. When you get on a plane, if you've paid X amount for your plane fare and you find out that the person next to you booked the flight the day before at the last minute and got a much cheaper rate, you wouldn't expect to get a refund. And the same is true in the hotel thing. If you want to guarantee that you're going to have that availability, you want to guarantee that meeting space, you want to guarantee those concessions, then you have to take the risk that it might turn out your deal is not as good as you would like it to be. So that's my position. Everybody's taking a risk and you have to guide yourself accordingly. Now, I'm sure Barbara's going to have a different take on it. Barbara?
Yeah, Lisa, no, I mean, I think those points are all well suited. And I would tell from the group's perspective, every group is going to try to negotiate the best rate possible when they can. And as groups extend their booking lead times, I've seen groups and hotels be willing to agree and commit to room rates farther in advance than what they may have done in the past. And the days of having a confirmed rate for the current year with a percentage increase cap, if the meeting is 8 years down the road, are still there to some extent, but are largely being replaced with parties actually negotiating the rates themselves. So I think that that's a good thing. And as you point out, Lisa, the rate is a material term of the contract. What the rate issue is from the group's perspective, to me, this is room block management. And my first question to the group is, what kind of meeting is this? Is this a meeting where people choose to come? They have to register through a link or call in for the hotel. They book their own, in other words. Or is this a board meeting? Are these committee or leadership meetings where we're doing rooming lists or having folks come in, or even a corporate meeting, where company employees are coming in and we're doing all this? The answer to that question definitely is going to map out your approach. Obviously, again, we want to be competitive in either instance. But in the case of the individuals making their own reservations, that's essentially the marketplace. And then my next question would be, what locations are you looking at? Are you looking at a location that might have a lot of lower priced options, hotels nearby? In which case, you're setting it up, right, for a concern that folks might not stay at this hotel if the rates aren't competitive. So that's first. The other point you make, and I agree with Lisa, because transient rates are higher, is that in days gone by, it used to be transient rates at the same hotel would be lower and folks would want to take advantage of that. Now I think it's probably the opposite, at least for a while. But room block management also means, of course, getting credit for anybody who's coming in the door. And certainly would talk always about attrition, getting commissions, getting rebates, getting, credit for the rooms, the comps, et cetera, based on the spend, based on the room count. And so, that issue that is credit for rooms often is one that the groups and hotels can come to terms with as to getting credit for attrition and the rest. But on the rate side, the honoring the rate side, that is one which continues to be a debate. And, my concern with language and contracts about changes with economic conditions is it just leaves it wide open. There's no wiggle room there. And, sometimes, and I agree, the language is written such that the rates could be increased, which isn't something that the groups want to see. I think another compelling argument for groups, as you go to hotels and negotiate rates, your members are going to be looking at historically where you've been and where those rates are. So I think you've got to factor that in. And that's the pitch to the hotel. We increase our rates every year, depending on the marketplace and the changes, but a jump by $50, for example, is going to cause a problem. Because again, no one wants that. No one wants the issue of poor pickup to be dealing with that 30 days out, right? We want to be proactive. So I think bottom line is, negotiate the best rates you can, and then think about the ways you're going to manage the block from the group's perspective. How are you going to commit? Folks will stay at the hotel. What incentives are there? What disincentives are there to not stay at the hotel? And all the things that go along with it. And Lisa, I know over the years we've talked about groups that do like our hospitality industry attorney group that does the one-stop shopping. I'm coming to the meeting. That's going to include my hotel reservation, et cetera, as a way to manage that. And I agree, some groups and some settings, I think that works well. For other groups, citywide events, trade shows, it's very difficult to do that, very difficult to police it. But again, bottom line, I think, really doing the soul searching on the group side, on the locations, those types of things, room block management, to me is the most critical thing that groups can do nowadays, because we know the rates are going to fluctuate up and down, but we've got to be prepared to sell our room, fill our block, and to live up to all the other contractual commitments. Sean?
If I can jump back in for a second, because I want to highlight something that Barbara said about room block management. People understand that when they want to go to an event, they have to pay a registration fee. That's a cost of doing business. If I want to go, I have to pay a registration fee. For some reason, groups have not adopted that in terms of room block management, saying if you want to attend this event, you have to reserve your room block, either that one-stop shop, as Barbara said, or you have to reserve your room as part of the official block. If you adopt that approach, this lower rate availability will immediately go away, because it doesn't matter if there's lower rates in the marketplace or at the hotel, because they are required to book as part of the official block. So that's the way that I think that this this issue can be handled, that and educating your attendees that the people that are staying in those lower rated rooms are not getting all of the things that your association or group is getting, such as the meeting space, such as the concessions, such as those other things. So those are the two things that I would really like to emphasize on that.